How do you decide what to produce? That depends on what you want to grow, what your land is suited for, and what consumers want. Our guide for beginning farmers in Nova Scotia sets out the major farm commodities in Appendix A. It outlines what you need to produce each commodity and points out which markets have room for growth.
To make the decision of what you want to grow is quite often the sum of a number of factors. One of the things that you probably want to start out with are the things that you personally like as a crop to grow or something that you have an affinity to.
We didn't have much area to work with, so cattle and something like that was out. Chickens I'd raised as a boy, so I figured I know something about them. So I started off with something I knew a little bit about.
I kind of have an affinity for salad greens. I love exotic salad greens. I've been able to work with some chefs and some of the more exotic ones. I have a good clientele at some of the markets.
We got into sheep because we currently grow barley and we have the straw. So we're already growing some of the commodities that the sheep already use. And low overhead in order to get in to the market. You can buy a ewe for relatively cheap compared to a beef cow. And to fence them and to house them, it's one cow equals 5 sheep.
So I decided to raise a few meat birds for our own consumption. It sort of snowballed from there. We started with 25 and now we've been up as high as 5,000.
It's called, it's an SPIN farming, and it's small plot intensive farming. So it's basically taking any bit of little land that you have, and there's a lot of different principles that are basic to spin farming, but farming always is very unique and individual. So people can do lots of different things with it.
I immigrated from Germany to come to Canada with the goal of operating my own farm. Originally, I was actually more interested in having a dairy farm because that is where some of my background is. But I very quickly realized that because I had no money, a dairy farm wasn't really in the cards for me. And vegetables seemed to be one of those opportunities where without a real long-term investment, you could actually see some return in a reasonably short time.
We also do quite a bit of custom work. We do a lot of combining and spraying and seeding, corn planting for people. It was a great way for us to get equipment to help pay for it all.
We wanted something that was, if we made the investment, it would last for a while. And cranberries, over the years, the cranberry farms that were planted up to 100 years ago, and there is one in Nova Scotia that's 100 years old, they're still growing cranberries today. So there are a long-term investment. But we also wanted something that would grow well here. And there were actually cranberries on this property before we started, and there were no potatoes, or there were no apples, or there was no other, so we looked at what there was to work with, and we said in Nova Scotia here, we have the right environment.
When we had the opportunity to buy the lavender business, it was a natural because we realized, hey, this is a growing business. This is a business that produces a product that people love. We don't have to try and sell it. It's very easy. All we do is have to make the products and keep up with the demand, and it flies off the shelf. And with having a retail outlet, we already have a means by which to bring that to the people to buy.
In order to have a CSA, you really need the variety. Like in a farmer's market or a grocery store, a restaurant, I could definitely just grow the one thing. But it's just more interesting, and I wanted to be a part of a CSA. So we really needed to provide all the different kinds of produce for that.
Well, that was the main reason why we chose to be organic. My kids were toddlers and they wanted to be in the garden with their Tonka trucks, so there was no option of pesticides.
It was my experience. I have always been vegetable farming, and I really love being able to produce a lot of my own food, and I find that that's really a staple, and I don't know how I got into it, but I really like vegetables.
When we first decided we wanted to be dairy farmers or be in a business that was supply managed, It made the most sense for us. It was certainly going to be the most challenging to get into because it takes a lot of money.
We produce many different types of lavender products here. Everything from the plants themselves, which we sell to private individuals as well as landscape artists. Also, in the springtime, we harvest the buds, and with the buds we make such products like lavender sachets and eye pillows. We blend many different types of teas.
We grow cranberries and we make cranberry products. We make cranberry preserves and cranberry juice, dried cranberries. And then because we have the equipment to dry fruit, we dry other fruits as well, such as blueberries and cherries. We also process frozen cranberries for many other growers. We freeze them and we pack them and we sell them all over the world, mostly to Europe though.
We grow everything, tomatoes, beans, peas, beets were really good.
It's interesting in the cranberry industry. Most of the people who get in cranberries are not farmers to start with. There are some exceptions to this, and they tend to be actually the better cranberry growers because there is something about farming and understanding that you're dealing with the weather and random things that it takes the right personality to deal with. So if you're in farming already and thinking about cranberries, it's a different thing than if you're in another industry completely and thinking about getting into cranberries. Like I've heard a quote one time that bulldozer operators don't necessarily make the best cranberry farmers because they just don't like that level of detail that it takes to make it work.
If we look back, I think it was all to an end. It was a means to an end for us. For myself, I worked in a lot of different jobs, but it was all related to farming, not necessarily dairy, but it had to do with economics or production, or specifically to genetics, for example. And that all added up. I think it sort of built my resume and honed me to become a dairy farmer. And ultimately, that's what we wanted to be. We wanted to be farmers. And if we could be in the dairy industry, that was our first choice.